I buried my husband 6 months ago. Yesterday, I saw him buying groceries at Costco. When I ran to him crying, he looked at me like I was a stranger, said his name was Robert Miller. But I knew every scar on that face, every mark, every line. I followed him home. What I found there broke something in me that I didn't know could still break. My name is Helen Richardson. For 43 years, I was married to a man named Raymond. We met at a church barbecue when I was 19. He was 22, working at a hardware supply company, trying to save enough money for his own place. I was doing alterations in the back room of a dry cleaner, dreaming about my own shop someday. He came up to me at that barbecue, handed me a plate of potato salad. "You look like you could use some food." Not smooth, but genuine. We dated for 3 years before we got married. My mama didn't approve at first, said Raymond didn't have enough ambition, that I could do better. She didn't see how he worked doubles without complaining, how he saved every extra dollar, how he talked about our future like it was something solid, something we were building together. Before we dive in, I want to ask you something. Where in the world are you listening from? Drop your city or country in the comments. I love seeing how far our community reaches, and if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time. Your support truly helps this community grow. Thank you for being here. We got married in 1980 at Greater Bethel Baptist Church. Small ceremony, maybe 50 people. My mama made my dress, simple white cotton with lace at the collar. Raymond wore a rented brown suit, too big in the shoulders. We couldn't afford much. But standing there with him, I felt like I had everything. We started in a 1-bedroom apartment on the south side. Tiny. You could barely turn around in the kitchen. Raymond worked at the hardware supply company during the day, sometimes pulling overtime. I kept my job at the dry cleaner, brought home sewing projects at night, worked on them at our little kitchen table while Raymond watched television. Extra money for savings, for our future. We wanted children. Tried for 3 years before I got pregnant with Terrence. I remember the day I told Raymond. He was getting ready for work. "Raymond," I said, "I'm pregnant." He dropped his coffee cup. It shattered on the floor, coffee spreading everywhere. He just stood there. Then he picked me up and spun me around in that tiny kitchen, both of us crying and laughing. Terrence was born in 1984, 8 pounds, 3 ounces. Raymond cried when he first held him, stood there in the hospital room with tears running down his face. "We're going to give him everything," he said. "Everything we didn't have. He's going to have opportunities. He's going to make something of himself." Raymond worked his way up. Warehouse worker to shift supervisor to inventory manager. The money got better. We moved into a small house, 2 bedrooms, 1 bathroom, but it had a yard where Terrence could play. I kept sewing, built up clientele through word of mouth, ladies from church, their daughters, women who needed alterations or custom dresses. We weren't rich, but we were comfortable, paid our bills on time, went to church every Sunday, had dinner at my mama's house every other week. Normal life. Raymond coached Terrence's little league team, helped with homework, was there for birthdays, school plays, every important moment. When Terrence got accepted to college, Raymond sat at the kitchen table with that acceptance letter and wept. "He did it," he kept saying. "Our boy's going to college." We refinanced the house to help pay for it, took out loans, both picked up extra work. Terrence graduated with a business degree in 2006, started his own consulting firm. We were proud. My baby had made it further than either of us ever dreamed. Raymond and I had our struggles. Money was tight sometimes. We'd argue about bills, about whether we could afford things, but we always figured it out. Or so I thought. Looking back, I can see the cracks. Raymond started traveling more in the late 90s. Trade shows, he said, vendor meetings. Sometimes he'd be gone 3-4 days at a time. "It's part of the job," he'd tell me. "You want me to move up, don't you? Want us to have security?" I didn't question it. When he came home from those trips, he seemed happy, relaxed. I thought it was because he was glad to be home. He got a second cell phone. For work, he said. Kept it with him always. Sometimes it would ring late at night and he'd step outside. "Just work stuff," he'd say. Nothing important. I believed him because after 40 years together, you think you know someone. He got more secretive about finances too, opened accounts I didn't know about. Investment opportunities, he called them, building our retirement fund. When I asked to see statements, he'd get defensive. You don't understand this stuff, Helen. Let me handle it. I'm taking care of us. So I let him. That's what wives did, wasn't it? Trust their husbands with the big financial decisions. I had my alteration shop, brought in my own money. But the major stuff, the investments and planning, that was Raymond's domain. We'd been talking about retirement. Raymond was 67, said he wanted to work maybe 2 more years, then we'd travel, see the world. Ghana to see where our ancestors came from, the Caribbean islands, Brazil. He'd sit at the kitchen table on Sunday afternoons with travel brochures spread out, circling places with a red pen, doing calculations in the margins. When I retire, he'd say, looking up at me, we're going to see everything, Helen, just you and me. I believed him. 6 months ago, everything changed. Tuesday afternoon, middle of May. I was at the shop, working on a wedding dress for a young lady from the church. Ivory silk needed the hem taken up and some beading reinforced. I was bent over my sewing machine when my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Richardson? A man's voice. Official. Yes? This is Officer Davis with the police department. Ma'am, I'm sorry to tell you this, but there's been an accident. Your husband, Raymond Richardson, was involved in a single vehicle collision on Highway 45. Ma'am, I'm very sorry, but he didn't survive. The world stopped. I remember the phone slipping from my hand, my customer catching me as my legs gave out, the sound that came from my throat, something animal and broken. They said he had a heart attack while driving. Car went off the road, hit a tree head-on. Impact was severe. Died instantly, they said. Like that was supposed to be comforting. Terrence took care of everything. He was at my house within an hour, holding me while I cried, making phone calls, handling details I couldn't process. The police released the body after 2 days. Terrence identified it, signed the papers, said I didn't need to see Raymond like that, said it would only make things worse, that I should remember him as he was. So I never saw the body, not at the hospital, not at the morgue, not until the funeral home had prepared him. When I finally saw him in that casket, he looked like he was sleeping. They'd done a good job with makeup covering whatever injuries there were. He looked like Raymond, like my husband. I touched his hand, so cold. That's when it became real. The funeral was massive. Raymond had a lot of friends, people who respected him. The church was packed. Pastor Jenkins gave a eulogy about Raymond's dedication to his family, his work ethic, his faith. People came up afterward, said how sorry they were, how Raymond was a good man, how I must be devastated. I was more than devastated. 43 years with someone, and then they're just gone. I couldn't comprehend it. The burial was at Peaceful Rest Cemetery, up on the hill where you can see the whole city. Terrence picked out the plot, arranged for a marble headstone. The casket alone cost $15,000, solid mahogany with brass handles. The plot, the headstone, the burial service, all of it came to $90,000. I signed the checks Terrence put in front of me. Raymond deserved the best. The life insurance came through 3 weeks later, $400,000. Raymond had taken out the policy 10 years ago, always said it was to make sure I was taken care of. Terrence helped me handle everything, set up accounts, dealt with the insurance company, made sure paperwork was filed correctly. He was such a good son, so attentive. Those first months after Raymond died, I don't remember much. Days blurred together. I'd wake up and forget for just a second, reach across the bed expecting to feel him there. Then reality would crash back. He was gone. I was alone. His clothes still hung in the closet. His coffee cup sat in the cabinet. His reading glasses were on the nightstand. Little reminders that he'd existed, that we'd shared a life. Carmen and Beatrice practically moved in with me. Carmen's been my best friend since we were 15, grew up 3 houses down from each other. Beatrice. I met her at Greater Bethel 30 years ago when she joined the choir. These women kept me alive when I wanted to give up. They brought food I couldn't eat, sat with me during endless nights when sleep wouldn't come, forced me to shower, to get dressed, to leave the house. Every Sunday after church, I'd go to the cemetery, sit on the stone bench beside Raymond's grave and talk to him. Tell him about my week, about the shop, about Terrence. Sometimes I'd cry. Sometimes I'd just sit there in silence. The headstone was beautiful. Gray marble with Raymond's name, his dates, and the inscription, "Beloved husband and father, forever in our hearts." I visited that grave every single Sunday for 6 months, sat there talking to a man who wasn't even dead. Yesterday morning, Carmen convinced me to go to Costco, said I needed to get out, buy some groceries, start living again. I didn't want to, but she can be persistent. So I went. I was in the canned goods aisle, not really paying attention, when I saw him. Raymond. Standing there in a Green Bay Packers t-shirt I'd never seen, holding a shopping cart, checking the price on a can of beans. My husband, the man I'd buried, the bottle of olive oil I was holding slipped from my hands. Glass exploded, golden oil spreading. People turned to look. I didn't care. My legs moved on their own, running. "Raymond! Oh my God, Raymond, you're alive!" He turned. When those eyes met mine, the whole world stopped. It was him. The scar through his left eyebrow from when he fell off a motorcycle at 19. The slightly crooked nose from a fight he got into, protecting his little brother. The birthmark on his neck, shaped like a small coffee bean. I'd kissed that birthmark 1,000 times. I reached for him, arms out, needing to touch him, to hold him, but he stepped back. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said in that same deep voice I'd heard every day for 43 years. "I think you've got me confused with someone else." Confused? My voice came out broken. "No, Raymond, it's me, Helen, your wife." I pulled out my phone with shaking hands. Found a photo from his last birthday before the accident. Us standing in front of the church after Sunday service, his arm around my waist. Look at this. Don't you recognize me?" He looked at the photo. His eyes narrowed for just a second. Then he shook his head. "I'm sorry. My name is Robert. Robert Miller. I've never seen that picture in my life." He put a hand on my shoulder, brief and careful. "You must be going through something real difficult. Maybe you should sit down, get some water." Robert Miller. I looked at him more carefully. His clothes were wrong. Raymond wore button-down shirts even on his days off, pressed slacks, leather shoes. This man had on a faded Packers t-shirt and old jeans, worn-out sneakers. But the face. Lord have mercy. The face was identical. "Your finger," I whispered. "Show me your left hand." He frowned but raised his hand. There it was. The pinky finger bent at an odd angle from when he broke it as a teenager trying to fix his grandmother's roof. He'd told me that story on our third date. "Look, ma'am, I really have to go," he said, already backing away. "I hope you feel better, but I'm not who you think I am." He walked away, just turned and walked away like I was nothing. A store employee came over to clean up the oil. People were staring, whispering. Carmen found me standing there, frozen. "Helen? What happened?" I couldn't speak, just watched him disappear toward the checkout lanes. "I need to go," I finally managed. "I need to follow him." Carmen grabbed my arm. "Follow who?" "Helen, what's going on?" That was Raymond. That was my husband. Baby, Raymond's gone. He's been gone 6 months. I know what I saw. I pulled away, moving toward the front of the store. Through the windows, I could see him loading bags into an old white Ford Taurus. I'd never seen that car before. Raymond drove a Buick, kept it immaculate, washed it every Saturday morning. I got to my car. Carmen was right behind me, concerned, trying to get me to stop and think, but I couldn't think. Could only feel this terrible certainty that something was very wrong. I followed that white Taurus through the city, kept my distance, staying a few cars back. We drove through downtown, past the neighborhood where Raymond and I had lived for 20 years, and kept going west toward an area I didn't know well. Working-class neighborhood, small houses with chain-link fences and yards that needed mowing. He parked in front of a seafoam green house with a white picket fence and a little garden out front. Got out carrying grocery bags. Then the front door opened. A woman came out, younger than me, maybe mid-50s, dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She smiled when she saw him, not a neighbor's smile, a wife's smile. She kissed him on the cheek, took one of the bags. Then 2 children came running out, a boy and a girl, maybe 8 and 10. They jumped on him, yelling, "Grandpa! Grandpa, did you get the ice cream?" Grandpa. He laughed. That same lopsided laugh I knew so well. They all went inside together. The door closed. I sat in my car down the street. 43 years of marriage. 6 months of crying myself to sleep every night, clutching his pillow because it still smelled like him. And here he was, alive, with another family, with grandchildren I didn't know existed. I took pictures. Hands shaking so bad half came out blurry. But I got some clear shots. The house, the car, the license plate, that woman, those children. As the sun started to set, I drove home. Don't remember the drive. Just remember sitting in my garage in the dark, looking at those photos, comparing them to old pictures of Raymond. Every scar matched, every mark, every tiny detail. I went inside our house and sat in the living room without turning on the lights. And that's when the question hit me. If Raymond is alive, who did we bury? I didn't sleep that night. Sat at the kitchen table with every photo I had of Raymond spread out. Wedding pictures where we were both so young. Pictures of Terrence as a baby, as a child, graduating college. Vacations, birthdays, barbecues, Christmases. And on my phone screen, those pictures from today. I zoomed in, examined every detail. The scar through his eyebrow, identical. The shape of his ears, left one slightly bigger than the right. The same. That birthmark on his neck. Same spot, same size. Even the way he smiled, showing more teeth on the right side. Exactly the same. I found a magnifying glass in the junk drawer. Pulled out an old photo of Raymond without his shirt from a beach trip to Florida 15 years ago. There was a small, dark mole near his collarbone. I zoomed in on the phone picture where Robert was turning to get a bag from the car. His shirt had ridden up a little. Same mole. Same place. Twins don't have the same birthmarks. Scars aren't genetic. And that broken finger, that's an injury. I stood up, paced through the house, came back to the table. The clock said 4:20 in the morning. I picked up our wedding album, traced my fingers over faded pictures. Raymond at 25, skinny with that thin mustache he later shaved off. Me at 22 in a simple white dress my mother made, hair done up with fresh flowers. We were so poor, but I'd thought we were happy. At 6 in the morning, I called Terrence. He answered on the 4th ring, voice heavy with sleep. "Mom, what's wrong? It's 6 in the morning. I need you to come over, right now." "What happened? Are you okay?" "Just come, please." He was there in 40 minutes, still in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair uncombed. "Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" I showed him the photos. First the old ones of Raymond, then the new ones from yesterday. Watched his face as he looked through them. "This is Dad," he said slowly. "Where did you take these?" "Yesterday at Costco. I saw him, Terrence. Your father is alive." I grabbed his arm. He called himself Robert Miller. Said he didn't know me, but it's him. You can see it's him. Terrence sat down heavily, stared at the photos for a long time. There has to be an explanation. Maybe it's a twin brother Dad never told us about. Or a cousin who looks just like him. A twin with the exact same scars, the exact same broken finger, the exact same birthmark. My voice was getting higher. "Don't treat me like I'm crazy, Terrence. I know what I saw." "I'm not saying you're crazy, Mom, but Dad is dead. We buried him. You saw his body." "Did you?" He froze. "What?" Did you actually see his body at the hospital? His face went pale. I was at the hospital, but by the time I got there, he was already in the morgue. They said the accident, that it would be better to remember him how he was. So neither of us actually identified the body. The police did. They had his license, his information, or someone who looked enough like him. I was shaking now. What if it wasn't him? What if this whole time we buried someone else? And Raymond is out there living another life with another family? Terrence stood up, started pacing. Okay, let's think about this logically. If Dad faked his death, why? And how? You can't just fake a death certificate, a police report. I don't know why, but I know what I saw, and I know what I felt. That was your father, Terrence. I'd know him anywhere. He ran his hands over his face. What do you want to do? I want to find out the truth. I want to know who we buried, and I want to know why Raymond would do this to us. I looked at my son. Will you help me? He was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. Yeah, Mom, I'll help you. If this is real, if Dad really did fake his death, then we need to know why. The first thing we did was hire a private investigator. Terrence found someone, a woman named Simone Wright, who specialized in what she called complex family matters. We met her at her office downtown, a small place above a barber shop. She was maybe 50, with short natural hair and sharp eyes. I showed her everything. The photos, the address, where Raymond or Robert was living, told her the whole story. She listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, she leaned back. Mrs. Richardson, I'm going to be straight with you. If your husband faked his death, that's not just fraud. That's conspiracy, insurance fraud, possibly identity theft depending on whose body you buried. This could get very complicated. I just want to know the truth. The truth might hurt more than the lie. She looked at Terrence, then back at me. Are you prepared for that? I've been hurting for 6 months. At least if I know the truth, I'll know what I'm hurting about. She nodded slowly. All right, I'll take the case. I'll need a retainer of $5,000. I'll start by running a background check on Robert Miller, checking property records, financial records, anything I can find. Terrence wrote the check. 3 days later, Simone called. Mrs. Richardson, I need you to come to my office. I found some things. My hands were shaking as I drove downtown. Terrence met me there. We sat across from Simone as she spread documents across her desk. Robert Miller exists, she said. He's been using that name for 26 years, has a social security number, pays taxes, owns that house we saw, clean record, works as a shift supervisor at a plastics manufacturing plant. He's married to a woman named Claudia, has been for 25 years. They have 3 grown children and those grandkids you saw. 26 years, I repeated. But Raymond and I have been married for 43. Exactly. Simone pulled out another document. Here's where it gets interesting. I pulled Robert Miller's Social Security records. His number was issued in 1999. Before that, there's no record of Robert Miller existing anywhere in the United States. What does that mean? It means Robert Miller is a manufactured identity, created at some point in the late 90s. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean your husband is Robert Miller, but given the physical similarities you described, the timing is interesting. Terrence leaned forward. Can you check financial records? Did this Robert Miller receive any large sums around the time he appeared? Simone nodded. Already on it. There are several deposits into an account opened in Robert Miller's name in 1999, totaling about $300,000 over the course of a year. Small deposits, nothing that would trigger federal reporting requirements, but they add up. $300,000. I felt sick. And Raymond? Our Raymond? That's where it gets complicated. Your husband, Raymond Richardson, has been steadily employed at that hardware supply company for 35 years. Filed taxes every year, had credit cards, a mortgage, all of it. 2 completely separate financial lives, if this is the same person. But how? Terrence looked as pale as I felt. How could he maintain two complete lives? Two identities? That's impossible. Difficult, but not impossible, especially if he was careful. If he kept the lives completely separate, never made mistakes, never let the two worlds overlap. Simone looked at me. Mrs. Richardson, did your husband travel for work? Sometimes. He'd go to trade shows, vendor meetings. Maybe once every 2 months he'd be gone for a few days. And you never went with him? No. He said they were boring, just work stuff. I had my shop to run anyway. Simone made a note. I'd bet that's when he was living his other life. The timing would work. He could maintain a household here, then spend a few days every couple months with his other family. Tell them he works out of state or on an oil rig, something that explains the absences. I thought about all those times Raymond came home from trips. Always seemed happy, relaxed. I thought he was glad to be home. There's more, Simone said. She pulled out another set of documents. I looked into the accident that supposedly killed your husband. The police report, the medical examiner's records. The body was badly damaged in the crash. Face partially burned from airbag deployment, significant trauma. Dental records were used for identification. Dental records don't lie. No, but they can be switched if someone had access beforehand. And your husband worked in hardware supply, which means he probably had connections to contractors, maybe even to the morgue's supply chain. It's a stretch, but it's possible. You're saying he arranged all of this? Killed someone? Switched dental records? Faked his death? Terrence looked like he was going to be sick. I'm saying it's a possibility we need to investigate. Mrs. Richardson, did your husband have a life insurance policy? Yes. $400,000. Terrence helped me file the claim after Raymond died. Simone's expression shifted slightly. She looked at Terrence. Mr. Richardson, where is that money now? I helped Mom set up investment accounts, put most of it in mutual funds, some in bonds. Can you show me the account statements? Something in her voice made my stomach drop. Terrence pulled out his phone, logged into the account, showed her the screen. She looked at it for a long moment. Mrs. Richardson, when was the last time you actually looked at these accounts yourself? I haven't. Terrence handles all of that. I don't understand investments. She turned her laptop around. These are the accounts in your name that I was able to access through public records. The total balance is about $83,000. That's wrong, Terrence said quickly. There should be close to $450,000 with interest. So where's the rest? Terrence's face went white. I don't know. There must be a mistake. I'll call the bank. But I was already seeing it. The way his eyes wouldn't meet mine, the way his hands were shaking. Terrence, I said quietly, did you take my money? No, Mom, no, I would never. Show her the real accounts, Simone said. I've already found them. Business accounts in your name, investments, property purchases, all funded with withdrawals from your mother's accounts over the past 6 months. You took my money. I stood up, stepped back from him. Your father dies. And you steal from me? I was going to pay it back. I swear, Mom, I was going to put it back before you ever noticed. The business was struggling. I needed cash flow. I was going to replenish everything. $370,000? You stole $370,000 from your mother? My voice was rising. I trusted you. You said you were helping me. I am helping you. I'm keeping the business afloat, keeping us stable. It was temporary. Simone cleared her throat. Mr. Richardson, I need to ask you a direct question. Did you know your father was alive? What? No, of course not. Because the timing is interesting. Your father disappears. You gain control of your mother's finances. You start moving money around. From where I'm sitting, that looks like conspiracy. I had nothing to do with Dad faking his death. If he even did, this is all just speculation. But I was seeing things clearly now for the first time. My husband, gone, but not dead. My son, stealing from me while pretending to help. 2 men I'd loved and trusted more than anyone, both betraying me. "I want you to leave," I said to Terrence. My voice was calm now, ice cold. "Get out of this office." "Mom, please, let me explain." "There's nothing to explain. You stole from me while I was grieving, while I was at my lowest. You saw me crying every night, and you stole from me. I was going to pay it back. Leave, now." He stood there for another moment. Then he left. The door closed quietly. I sat back down, felt 1,000 years old. "What do I do now?" Simone was quiet for a moment. "Mrs. Marie Richardson, I can keep investigating your husband. I can find out for certain if Raymond and Robert are the same person. But I need to tell you, if they are, if he faked his death and you pursue this legally, it's going to expose your son's fraud too. The insurance company will investigate everything. Your son could go to prison." "He stole from me." "I know. I'm just making sure you understand the full picture before you decide how to proceed." I thought about Terrence, my baby boy, the child I'd raised, sacrificed for, loved more than my own life, and I thought about Raymond, the man I'd shared my bed with for 43 years. Both of them had looked at me and decided I was someone they could use. "Find out the truth about Raymond," I said. "All of it. I need to know." Over the next 2 weeks, Simone worked methodically. She tracked Raymond's movements during those years when I thought he only had one life, found receipts from restaurants in the neighborhood where Robert Miller lived, credit card statements showing purchases at stores near his other house. She built a timeline showing how one man could maintain 2 separate identities if he was careful enough, strategic enough, willing to lie every single day. She found Claudia too, talked to her neighbors, her co-workers, pieced together her life. According to what Simone learned, Raymond and Claudia had met at a hardware store in 1998. She was buying supplies to renovate the house she'd just purchased. Raymond helped her, charmed her, started dating her. Within a year, they were married. Claudia had no idea about me. She thought Robert Miller was exactly who he said he was, a divorced man, no kids, who worked rotating shifts at a plastics plant. The shifts explained why he was gone sometimes. She had no reason not to believe him. "Does she know?" I asked. "Does she know he's supposed to be dead?" "I don't think so. As far as I can tell, she thinks Robert is still working those rotating shifts. She has no idea anything's wrong. So she's a victim too, in a way. But Mrs. Richardson, she benefited from his lies. She got a husband, a father figure for her grandchildren, all of it built on fraud." Simone also dug into the accident that supposedly killed Raymond, got copies of the police report, the medical examiner's findings. "The body was identified through dental records," she told me, "face partially burned from airbag deployment, significant trauma. They needed dental records to confirm identity." "So how did Raymond fake that?" "I think I'm close to figuring it out. Mrs. Richardson, did your husband ever change dentists?" I thought back. "Actually, yes. About a year before the accident. He said he wanted someone closer to his work." "And did you go to this new dentist with him?" "No, I stayed with Dr. Peterson. He'd been my dentist for 20 years. Why would I change?" Simone made a note. "Because I think your husband switched dentists specifically so he could create new dental records, records that could be switched with someone else's. Mrs. Richardson, I tracked down Raymond's actual dental records from Dr. Peterson. The teeth used to identify the body in that car weren't your husband's teeth." The room seemed to tilt. I gripped the arms of my chair. "Then whose were they?" "I don't know yet. But I have a theory. There was a missing persons report filed about 3 weeks before your husband's accident. A man named James Mitchell. Homeless, no family, disappeared from a downtown shelter. He was approximately the same age as your husband, same general build. The case went cold. Nobody to follow up." "You think Raymond killed him?" "I don't know if he killed him or found him after he was already dead, but I think that body in the car was James Mitchell, not Raymond Richardson." The autopsy showed cause of death was blunt force trauma from the accident. If James Mitchell died of natural causes or an overdose, and Raymond found him, staged the whole thing, put him in the car and arranged the crash, that would work. I felt like I was going to be sick. Why would he do this? Because he was living two lives, Mrs. Richardson. Two families, two homes, two complete identities. At some point, that becomes impossible to sustain. Maybe he was getting older, tired of the juggling. Maybe he wanted to just be Robert Miller full time. But he couldn't just divorce you and move on because you'd come looking for him. You'd ask questions. The whole thing would unravel. So instead, he decided to die. Fake his death, collect the insurance money, and disappear into his other life permanently. But he couldn't collect the insurance if he was dead. Simone's expression was grave. No, but his son could. The realization hit like a physical blow. Terrence knew from the beginning. I don't have absolute proof yet, but the timing is suspicious. The way he immediately took control of your finances. The way he started moving money around. Mrs. Richardson, I think your husband and your son planned this together. Fake Raymond's death, collect the insurance, split the money. You were never supposed to find out. I couldn't breathe. My husband and my son had conspired together to rob me, to make me believe Raymond was dead while he went on living his other life, to take everything from me while I grieved. What do I do? That depends on what you want. You could go to the police right now. They'd investigate, likely charge both your husband and your son with fraud, conspiracy, possibly manslaughter depending on what happened to James Mitchell. Or you could wait. Let me keep digging. Build an absolutely airtight case. Or you could walk away. Some people would. Decide the pain of exposing everything isn't worth it. I thought about that. Thought about just letting it go. But then I thought about sitting at Raymond's grave every Sunday. Thought about Terrence holding me while I sobbed, all while he was stealing from me. Thought about 43 years of marriage revealed to be a lie. I want justice, I said. My voice was steady now. I want them to pay for what they did. Simone nodded slowly. Then we keep building the case. But Mrs. Richardson, I need you to be smart. Don't confront your husband. Don't tip your hand to your son. Act like everything's normal. Can you do that? Can you pretend? I thought about Raymond pretending for 26 years. Thought about Terrence pretending for 6 months. Yes, I said. I can pretend. Going home that night felt surreal. I walked through the door of the house Raymond and I had shared for 20 years, looked at all the photos on the walls, all the memories, wondered how much of it had been real. The house felt different now. Every room held memories I couldn't trust anymore. The kitchen where Raymond used to make coffee every morning, standing at the counter in his undershirt and slacks, humming some old song. The living room where we'd watch Jeopardy together in the evenings, competing to see who could answer first. The bedroom where we'd slept side by side for 43 years, his breathing slow and steady beside me in the dark. Had he ever truly been there? Or was he always thinking about his other life, counting days until he could go back to being Robert Miller? Terrence called that evening. I stared at his name on the screen. My finger hovered over the decline button, but Simone's words echoed. Pretend. Act normal. Don't tip your hand, I answered. Hello, baby. Mom, hey, I just wanted to check on you, see how you're doing. The casual concern in his voice made me want to scream, but I kept my voice steady, warm even. I'm okay, just tired. I know this has been hard, losing Dad, but I want you to know I'm here for you, whatever you need. Whatever I need. Like the $370,000 you stole, Terrence? Is that something you could help me with? I appreciate that, I said instead. You're a good son. The words tasted like poison, but I said them because I needed him to believe nothing had changed, needed him to think I was still the grieving widow, still the trusting mother. Listen, Mom. I was thinking maybe we could have dinner this weekend, just you and me. Get you out of the house. That sounds nice. Great. I'll make reservations somewhere nice. You deserve it. I deserve it. What I deserved was a husband who was faithful and a son who didn't rob me blind, but I swallowed the bitterness, kept playing my part. Thank you, baby. I'm looking forward to it. When we hung up, I sat in the dark living room for hours, just sat there with my thoughts, with my anger, with my grief, because I was grieving. Not for Raymond. He'd never really existed, but for the life I thought I had, for the marriage I thought was real, for the son I thought I'd raised to be better than this. The next few weeks were the hardest of my life, harder even than those first months after Raymond's supposed death. At least then, my pain was simple, clean. I was mourning a loss. Now I was living with knowledge that burned in my chest every single day. Knowledge I couldn't speak, knowledge I had to hide. Sunday service at Greater Bethel felt different. I sat in our pew, the one Raymond and I had claimed 30 years ago, third row from the front on the left side. People came up to me after service, asked how I was doing, told me how sorry they were about Raymond. Sister Marlene brought me a covered dish. Sweet potato casserole, honey. I know it's your favorite. And I smiled and thanked her and said I was managing, taking it day by day, when what I really wanted to do was stand up in the middle of the sanctuary and scream that my husband wasn't dead. He was alive and well, and living with another family 15 minutes away. Carmen and Beatrice could tell something was wrong. Carmen pulled me aside one Sunday. We were standing in the parking lot, sun beating down, her hand on my arm. Helen, what's going on with you? And don't tell me nothing. I've known you for 54 years. I can tell when something's eating at you. I wanted to tell her. Lord, how I wanted to tell her everything. But Simone had been clear. The fewer people who knew, the better. If word got out before we had our case solid, Raymond and Terrence might disappear, might destroy evidence. I'm just having a hard time, I said. Not a lie. Some days are harder than others. Carmen hugged me tight. Her perfume, the same white diamonds she'd worn for 20 years, made my eyes sting. I know, baby, I know. But you remember? You're not alone. You've got me and Beatrice. You've got your church family. We're all here for you. I hugged her back, feeling like a fraud, because I couldn't share what was really happening, couldn't let anyone help carry this weight. I went to that dinner with Terrence that weekend, let him take me to Carmine's, a nice Italian place downtown. We sat in a booth by the window, white tablecloth, candles flickering between us. He ordered wine, asked about my week, told me about some client he was trying to land. The whole time I was thinking about the money he'd stolen, about the plan he'd made with his father, about how easily he lied to my face. You know, Mom, I've been thinking, he said over dessert. Tiramisu we were sharing. Maybe you should consider selling the house. It's so big for just you. The maintenance, the memories, all of it. Maybe a fresh start would be good. A fresh start. Without the house Raymond had left me. One less asset to fight over when this all came crashing down, I supposed. I'll think about it, I told him. And the shop, too. You've been working so hard for so long. Maybe it's time to retire. Enjoy your life. You've got the insurance money invested. You could live comfortably without working. Without the shop, without the house, without anything to my name except whatever scraps they decided to leave me with. Maybe you're right, I said, playing along. I'll consider it. He reached across the table, squeezed my hand. I just want you to be happy, Mom, to have the life you deserve. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, wondered when he'd become someone I didn't recognize, or maybe I'd never really known him at all. Maybe, like his father, he'd always been capable of this, and I'd just been too blind to see it. When he dropped me off that night, he hugged me at the door. I love you, Mom. I love you too, baby, I said, and I did. That's what made it so hard. Simone called me every few days with updates. She'd found more emails between Raymond and Terrence, found records of cash withdrawals that lined up with deposits into offshore accounts. She'd tracked down the new dentist Raymond had gone to, discovered that the practice had closed down shortly after Raymond's accident. The dentist had moved out of state. Convenient. She'd also found medical records for James Mitchell showing he'd been in and out of emergency rooms for pneumonia in the weeks before he disappeared. He was sick, probably dying. Easy target for someone who needed a body. "I think we're almost there," Simone told me 3 weeks after our first meeting. We were sitting in her office, late afternoon. The barbershop downstairs was closing up, chairs scraping on the floor. "I've got enough to take to the police, enough to file charges. But Mrs. Richardson, I need to warn you again. Once we do this, there's no going back. Your son will be arrested. Your husband will be arrested. Everything's going to come out publicly. Your private life is going to be all over the news. Are you absolutely certain you want to do this?" I thought about it. Really thought about it. Thought about what it would mean to expose everything, to become that woman in the newspapers, the one whose husband faked his death, whose son stole from her. The embarrassment, the shame, the pity. But then I thought about sitting at Raymond's grave every Sunday, talking to an empty coffin, thought about Terrence holding me while I cried, all while planning how to spend the money he'd stolen, thought about 43 years of marriage revealed to be a performance. "I'm certain," I said. "Do it." The next day, Simone and I went to the police, walked into the station, asked for a detective. We got a guy named Martinez, maybe 40, tired eyes, the kind of tired that comes from seeing too much. We sat in a small interview room, beige walls, fluorescent lights humming overhead, a two-way mirror on one wall. I told him everything while Simone laid out the evidence, documents spread across the table between us. He listened without interrupting. When we finished, he leaned back. The chair creaked. He whistled low. "This is something else. You understand what you're asking me to do here? You're asking me to investigate your husband and arrest your son. I'm asking you to investigate crimes. The fact that they're my family doesn't change what they did." He nodded slowly, looked at the documents again. "All right. Give me everything you've got. I'll take it to my captain, see what we can do." It took 2 days. 2 days of me sitting at home, waiting, wondering if they'd believe us, if there was enough evidence, if this was all really happening. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. Just paced through the house at night, looked at photos, touched Raymond's things, his coffee mug still in the cabinet, his reading glasses still on the nightstand, the wool cardigan he used to wear on cool evenings, hanging in the closet. I held it to my face. It still smelled like him. Old Spice and something else. Something that was just Raymond. Or maybe it was Robert. Maybe I never really knew which one I'd been married to. On the third day, Detective Martinez called. "Mrs. Richardson, we're moving forward with the investigation. I need you to come down to the station, make a formal statement, and I need to warn you we'll be bringing in your son for questioning today. This is about to become very real." I went to the station, gave my statement, signed papers, my hand shaking as I wrote my name. Then I went home and waited. Carmen came over that evening. She'd been calling me all week, worried because I'd been distant. I told her I was sick, needed space, but now I told her everything. Sat in my kitchen and laid it all out. Raymond alive, Terrence stealing, the whole mess. She sat there with her mouth open. When I finished, she reached across the table, grabbed my hands. "Helen, baby, I don't even know what to say." "You don't have to say anything, just be here. Always." "But honey, what's going to happen now?" "I don't know. The police are investigating. They're bringing Terrence in for questioning, and eventually they'll go after Raymond too." She squeezed my hands tighter. "You're the strongest woman I know, you hear me? The strongest. And we're going to get through this together." The next day, the police arrested Terrence, Charged him with fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. He called me from jail, crying, begging me to help him, to get him a lawyer, to bail him out. I can't, I said, my voice steady, cold even. I don't have the money. You took it all, remember? Mom, please, I made a mistake. But I'm your son. You can't just abandon me. You abandoned me first, when you and your father decided to rob me, to make me bury a stranger while he ran off to his other life. I didn't know Dad was alive, I swear. But you knew about the plan to fake his death. You knew about the insurance fraud. Don't lie to me anymore, Terrence. I've seen the emails. I know everything. He was quiet for a long moment. I could hear him breathing on the other end of the line. Then his voice changed, got harder. If I go down, I'm taking him with me. I'll tell them everything. Good. You should. You really hate me that much? I don't hate you. I love you. That's why this hurts so much. My voice broke. I couldn't help it. Because I raised you to be better than this. I raised you to have integrity, to respect your mother. And you looked at me and saw someone you could use. That's not true, isn't it? You saw me grieving, falling apart, and instead of helping me, you robbed me. Took the money your father died for, or the money I thought he died for, and you stole it, while I was crying myself to sleep every night. He didn't have an answer for that. Get yourself a lawyer, I said, a public defender if you can't afford one, but don't call me again. I hung up before he could respond, sat there in my kitchen, the phone in my hand, and I cried. Not for Raymond, not for the money, but for my son, for the boy I'd raised, for the man I'd thought he'd become. Over the next 3 weeks, Simone worked methodically. She found financial records showing transfers from Terrence's accounts to an offshore account. She found emails between Terrence and Raymond from before the accident discussing the plan. The wording was careful, vague, but when you knew what to look for, the meaning was clear. She even found the life insurance policy where Terrence had been named beneficiary just 3 months before Raymond's supposed death, changed from me to him without my knowledge. The signature is forged, Simone told me. Your husband signed your name. That's another crime. She also tracked down more information about James Mitchell, found his records from the shelter, medical reports showing he'd been sick with pneumonia, getting worse. I think your husband found him at the shelter, maybe offered him help, food, a place to stay. Then when he died, natural causes or otherwise, Raymond used the body. Can you prove any of this? Enough of it. I've got financial records, emails, the forged signature, proof that Raymond and Robert are the same person. It's enough for the police to investigate, enough for charges to be filed. But Mrs. Richardson, I need to prepare you. This is going to be ugly. It's going to be public. Everything's going to be exposed. Are you ready for that? I thought about my shop, the customers I'd had for years. I thought about Greater Bethel Baptist, where Raymond and I had been members for 30 years. I thought about Carmen and Beatrice and all my friends who would have to watch me go through this publicly. I'm ready, I said. They took my dignity when they lied to me. I'm taking it back. The next day, Simone and I went to the police, walked into the station and asked for a detective. We got a guy named Martinez, maybe 40 with tired eyes. We sat in a small interview room. I told him everything while Simone laid out the evidence. He listened without interrupting. When we finished, he leaned back and whistled low. This is something else. You understand what you're asking me to do here? You're asking me to investigate your husband and arrest your son. I'm asking you to investigate crimes. The fact that they're my family doesn't change what they did. He nodded slowly. All right. Give me everything you've got. I'll take it to my captain, see what we can do. It took 2 days. 2 days of me sitting at home, waiting, wondering if they'd believe us. On the 3rd day, Detective Martinez called. Mrs. Richardson, we're moving forward with the investigation. I need you to come down to the station, make a formal statement, and I need to warn you. We'll be bringing in your son for questioning today. This is about to become very real. I went to the station. gave my statement, signed papers. Then I went home and waited. Carmen came over that evening. She'd been calling me all week, worried. I told her I was sick, needed space. But now I told her everything. Sat in my kitchen and laid it all out. Raymond alive, Terrence stealing, the whole mess. She sat there with her mouth open. When I finished, she reached across the table and grabbed my hands. Helen, baby, I don't even know what to say. You don't have to say anything, just be here. Always. But honey, what's going to happen now? I don't know. The police are investigating. They're bringing Terrence in for questioning, and eventually they'll go after Raymond too. She squeezed my hands tighter. You're the strongest woman I know. You hear me? The strongest. And we're going to get through this together. The next day, the police arrested Terrence, charged him with fraud, embezzlement, conspiracy. He called me from jail, crying, begging me to help him, to get him a lawyer, to bail him out. I can't, I said. I don't have the money. You took it all, remember? Mom, please, I made a mistake, but I'm your son. You can't just abandon me. You abandoned me first, when you and your father decided to rob me, to make me bury a stranger while he ran off to his other life. I didn't know Dad was alive, I swear. But you knew about the plan to fake his death. You knew about the insurance fraud. Don't lie to me anymore, Terrence. I've seen the emails. I know everything. He was quiet for a long moment. Then his voice changed. Got harder. If I go down, I'm taking him with me. I'll tell them everything. Good. You should. You really hate me that much? I don't hate you. I love you. That's why this hurts so much. Because I raised you to be better than this. My voice broke. You saw me grieving, falling apart, and instead of helping me, you robbed me. Took the money your father died for, or the money I thought he died for, and you stole it while I was crying myself to sleep every night. He didn't have an answer for that. Get yourself a lawyer, I said. A public defender if you can't afford one, but don't call me again. I hung up before he could respond. Detective Martinez contacted me a week later. We've made an arrest in your husband's case. Picked him up this morning at his home. Well, Robert Miller's home. What happens now? He'll be arraigned, probably deny everything at first. But we've got solid evidence. The financial records, the emails between him and your son, the forged signature. Plus, Terrence is cooperating now. Gave us a full statement in exchange for a plea deal. A plea deal? He'll do 3 years instead of 10. I know that's not what you want to hear, but it's how the system works. We needed his testimony to make the case against your husband airtight. 3 years. My son would do 3 years in prison. The thought made me sick, but he'd made his choice. And Raymond? What charges is he facing? Fraud, insurance fraud, conspiracy, identity theft. And we're investigating the death of James Mitchell. If we can prove your husband killed him or was involved in his death, we'll add manslaughter. When's the trial? Probably 6 to 8 months. These things take time. Mrs. Richardson, I have to ask, are you sure you want to go through with this? A trial is going to be brutal. They'll tear into you on the stand. Try to make you look like a bitter ex-wife making things up. They'll bring up every argument you and your husband ever had. Let them. I'm telling the truth. I know you are. I just want to make sure you're prepared. I wasn't prepared. How could anyone be? But I nodded anyway. I'm ready. The next few months were hell. The story broke in the local papers. Woman discovers, husband faked death, lived double life. It was everywhere. People I'd known for years crossed the street to avoid me. Others stopped me in the grocery store to ask invasive questions. The church was supportive mostly. Pastor Jenkins preached a sermon about forgiveness and moving forward. I knew it was directed at me, but I wasn't ready to forgive. My shop suffered. Some customers stayed loyal, others drifted away. I understood. Nobody wants their alterations done by the woman whose whole life was exposed in the newspapers. Carmen and Beatrice stuck by me. They were at my house almost every day, bringing food, keeping me company, making sure I didn't fall apart. The trial finally came. I had to sit in that courtroom and look at Raymond. He'd gained weight since I last saw him, had more gray in his hair, or maybe it had always been there. When our eyes met, he looked away first. The prosecution laid it all out: the double life, the fake death, the insurance fraud. They showed the jury the emails between Raymond and Terrence, the financial records, everything. Simone testified about her investigation. Terrence testified, looking miserable. Told the jury how his father had approached him with the plan, promised him a cut of the insurance money if he'd help, how he'd been in debt, desperate, and agreed. "Did you know your father was going to fake his death?" the prosecutor asked. "Yes," Terrence said quietly. "He told me about 6 months before it happened. Showed me the plan. Said he'd found someone, a homeless man who was dying. Said we could use his body, stage an accident, collect the insurance." "And you agreed to this?" "I did. God help me, I agreed. I was in debt. I'd made bad investments. Dad said this was the only way out for both of us. And after the accident, after your mother believed your father was dead, what did you do?" "I took control of her finances. Dad had taught me how to access the accounts, how to move money without her noticing. I started transferring funds to offshore accounts, a little at a time." "How much did you steal from your mother?" $370,000. The courtroom reacted. Gasps, murmurs. The judge called for order. I sat there listening to my son admit to robbing me. And where is that money now? "Some of it's in the offshore accounts. Some I used to pay debts, to keep my business afloat. I was going to pay her back," Terrence added, looking at me for the first time. "I swear." The prosecutor didn't dignify that with a response. Then it was my turn to testify. I walked up to that stand with my head high, put my hand on the Bible, swore to tell the truth. I did. I told them everything. About my marriage to Raymond. About how I'd trusted him completely, about the day I got the call that he was dead, about the funeral, the grief, the 6 months of mourning, about seeing him at Costco, about following him home and discovering his other family. Raymond's lawyer tried to make me look foolish on cross-examination, asked me how I could have been married to someone for 43 years and not known they were living a double life, asked if Raymond and I had problems, if we fought about money, if I'd ever suspected him of cheating. "No," I said clearly. "I trusted my husband. That was my mistake. But it wasn't my crime. He's the one who lied. He's the one who stole. He's the one who faked his death and let me mourn him while he lived another life. But isn't it possible you saw what you wanted to see? That you're so angry about his affair with Claudia that you've constructed this story?" "I didn't construct anything. The evidence speaks for itself. The financial records, the emails, the fake dental records. The fact that my husband is sitting right there alive when he's supposed to be dead." "You seem very angry, Mrs. Richardson." "I am angry. My husband betrayed me. My son stole from me. I have every right to be angry. But that doesn't make what I'm saying untrue." The jury deliberated for 3 days. 3 days of waiting. 3 days of Carmen and Beatrice keeping me sane, reminding me that I'd done the right thing. When the jury came back, I held my breath. The foreman stood up. "On the count of insurance fraud, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of identity theft, we find the defendant guilty. On the count of conspiracy to commit fraud, we find the defendant guilty." Guilty. On all counts. I watched Raymond's face. He showed no emotion, just sat there as they went through each charge. Sentencing came 2 weeks later. The judge wasn't merciful. 12 years in federal prison. With good behavior, Raymond would be eligible for parole in 8 years. He'd be 79 years old if he got out. Terrence got his 3 years as part of his plea deal. He tried to talk to me after his sentencing. I walked past him without a word. As for me, I'm rebuilding. The insurance company had to pay me back every penny once the fraud was proven. $400,000 from the original policy, plus the $370,000 Terrence had stolen, plus another $150,000 in legal fees and damages. $920,000 total, more money than I'd ever imagined having. I didn't trust it to anyone else this time. Worked with a financial advisor recommended by Simone, a woman named Patricia Mills who walked me through every decision. We met at her office 3 times before I signed anything. She sat with me for hours, showed me spreadsheets, explained risk tolerance, talked about diversification, made sure I understood exactly where my money was going. Not like with Raymond and Terrence. This time, I asked questions, demanded answers, made sure everything was clear. I invested most of it conservatively, safe bonds, reliable mutual funds, the kind of investments that won't make me rich overnight but won't disappear either. Set myself up with enough monthly income that I'd never have to worry again. $15,000 a month, deposited directly into my account on the first of every month. More than enough. More than I ever had when Raymond was alive. I kept my alteration shop open, not for the income anymore, but because sewing had been mine before Raymond, before marriage, before motherhood. It was the one thing I'd never given up, never let anyone take from me. Now it's my sanctuary, the one place that's completely mine, where I can create something beautiful with my own 2 hands, something honest, something real. The story broke in all the papers once the trial ended. Local man faked death, lived double life for 25 years. Front page news. Channel 7 News parked outside my shop for 2 days straight. Reporter with perfect hair and bright lipstick, holding a microphone, trying to get me to talk. I pulled the blinds, locked the door, waited them out. They finally left. People treated me differently after that. Some crossed the street when they saw me coming. Like betrayal might be contagious, like they might catch whatever it was that made a woman not know her husband had another family. Others stopped me everywhere, at the grocery store, at church, at the post office, wanting to ask questions, wanting details, wanting the story that wasn't in the newspapers. How could you not know? They'd ask. Sister Martha from church, my neighbor Mrs. Johnson, even the cashier at Walgreens. Didn't you suspect something? Weren't there signs? That hurt worse than anything else. People suggesting I should have known, like it was my fault for trusting my husband, like I should have been suspicious, should have been checking up on him. Should have hired a private investigator 30 years ago just in case, like trust was a weakness instead of what you're supposed to have in a marriage. Greater Bethel was supportive mostly. Pastor Jenkins preached a sermon about forgiveness and healing 2 Sundays after the sentencing. Talked about letting go of anger, about finding peace, about how holding on to bitterness only hurts ourselves, about how God calls us to forgive even when forgiveness seems impossible. I sat in my pew and listened. The same pew Raymond and I had shared for 30 years. 3rd row from the front on the left side, right beside the aisle. I could still picture him sitting next to me, his knee touching mine, his bass voice singing along with the hymns, slightly off-key but confident. Had any of that been real? Or was he sitting there every Sunday thinking about Claudia, about his other grandchildren, about the life he really wanted? Did I forgive Raymond? I don't know. Some days, I think I did. Not because he deserved it, but because I needed to let go of the anger before it consumed me, before it ate me alive from the inside out. Other days I'm still furious, still can't believe he looked at me every single day for 26 years and lied. Can't believe he let me sit at his grave and cry. Can't believe he chose his other life over the one we'd built together. But mostly, I just feel tired. Tired of thinking about him. Tired of analyzing what went wrong. Tired of trying to understand how someone could do what he did. How someone could be that cruel, that calculating. He made his choices. I made mine. Now we're both living with the consequences. I also found Claudia, Raymond's other wife, went to her house one afternoon about a month after the trial ended, just drove over there, parked in front of that seafoam green house with the white picket fence, the house where Raymond had lived his other life. Sat in my car for 10 minutes, hands gripping the steering wheel, trying to get the nerve to walk up to that door. When I finally did, she answered on the second knock. When she saw me, her face went pale. Recognition immediate. She knew who I was. Everyone knew who I was by then. The woman whose husband faked his death. The woman who'd been married for 43 years and never knew. "Mrs. Richardson," she said quietly, "can I come in?" She hesitated. I could see the fear in her eyes, the uncertainty. Then she stepped back. Let me into her home, the home she'd shared with my husband. We sat in her living room, surrounded by photos of Robert Miller and his family, his other family, the children, the grandchildren, Christmas photos, birthday photos, Robert in a Santa hat smiling, Robert pushing a child on a swing, Robert at a barbecue, holding tongs, wearing an apron that said, "Kiss the cook." All of them staring at us from frames on every surface, on the mantel, on the side tables, on the wall. "I didn't know," she said before I could say anything. The words rushed out, desperate. "About you, about any of it. He told me his name was Robert Miller, that he'd never been married, that he didn't have any children, that he worked on oil rigs in the Gulf, and that's why he was gone sometimes. 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off. The shifts, the travel." It explained everything. I believed him because I had no reason not to. I trusted him. "I know. I looked into you. You were fooled, same as me. I thought about coming to see you after the trial, but I didn't know what to say. I'm sorry feels inadequate for something like this, for 43 years of lies. It is inadequate, but it's all we have." I looked around at all those photos. The grandchildren at Christmas wearing matching pajamas, Robert, Raymond, whoever he was, wearing a Santa hat, smiling, happy, living the life he'd chosen over mine. "How long were you married to him?" 25 years. Or I thought I was married to him. The lawyers told me it was bigamy, that his marriage to you was the legal one, the real one, and ours was nothing, just a lie, a fraud. 25 years of fraud. I'm sorry for that. She looked at me, surprised, eyes red from crying. "You're apologizing to me. After everything? You lost something too. Maybe not as much as I lost, maybe not 43 years, but you lost something. The man you thought you knew, the life you thought you had. That's worth mourning." Her eyes filled with tears, fresh ones. "The grandkids are devastated. They loved him so much, thought he was this wonderful grandfather who brought them ice cream and took them fishing on Saturdays, and now they know he was a liar, that everything about him was a lie, that he had another family, another life, that he never told them about. They keep asking me why. Why wasn't our family enough? Why did he need another one? And I don't have an answer. Because I don't understand it either. I'm sorry for them too. For what it's worth, I'm sorry your family has to deal with this. Your grandchildren shouldn't have to pay for his choices." We sat in silence for a moment. Two women who'd both loved the same man, both been betrayed by him in different ways. The grandfather clock in the corner ticked, loud in the quiet room. Outside, a car drove past. A dog barked. Normal sounds, normal world. Nothing felt normal. Then she asked, "What do we do now? How do we move forward from something like this?" "We survive. That's all we can do. Survive and try to rebuild something real out of the ruins he left behind. Try to trust ourselves again, even if we can't trust anyone else." She nodded slowly, wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "You're stronger than me. I don't know how to do that. I don't know how to start over at my age, at 56 years old after finding out everything I believed was a lie. My whole adult life was built on his deception. You'll figure it out. Because what's the alternative? Let him destroy us even more than he already has? Let him win? No, we survive. We move forward. And we never let another man make fools of us again. How do you trust anyone after this? How do you let someone in when you know they could be lying about everything?" "I don't know yet. Maybe you don't. Maybe you just learn to trust yourself instead. Learn to listen to that voice inside that tells you when something's wrong, the voice I ignored for too many years. I left her house feeling strange, not better exactly, but lighter somehow, like seeing her, talking to her, made the whole thing more real and somehow less devastating at the same time. We were both victims, both fooled by the same man, both trying to pick up the pieces of lives we'd thought were solid. That created a strange connection, a shared understanding that nobody else could really grasp. We'd both loved him. We'd both trusted him. We'd both been wrong. It's been 2 years now since I saw Raymond at Costco. 2 years since my whole world fell apart and I had to build a new one from scratch. I'm 71 years old now. My son is in prison. My husband is in prison. My marriage was a lie, but I'm still here. I wake up every morning in my home, the home I own, free and clear. Raymond's name isn't on the deed anymore. I had that changed, made sure it was just mine, all mine, Helen Richardson, that's all. I go to my shop, I sew. I talk to customers. Mrs. Chen, who needs her daughter's prom dress, hemmed. Young Michael, who's getting married next month and needs his tuxedo taken in. Normal work, honest work. I have lunch with Carmen and Beatrice once a week at the little cafe downtown. Maria's Cafe, run by Maria Gonzalez, who makes the best chicken salad I've ever had. Her secret is apple and walnuts, she told me once. Sweetness and crunch. We sit at our usual table by the window, the one that gets good light in the afternoon. Talk about everything and nothing. The new pastor who's replacing Pastor Jenkins when he retires. Carmen's grandson who just got accepted to Morehouse. Beatrice's hip that's been acting up. They ask me how I'm doing. Really doing. And I tell them the truth. Some days are good, some days are hard, but I'm managing. I'm surviving. We've started planning a trip together. The 3 of us. A 3-week journey to Ghana. Going to see the homeland. Walk the ground our ancestors walked. Visit the slave castles at Cape Coast and Elmina. The museums, the markets. It's something I always wanted to do with Raymond. We'd talked about it for years, planned it, circled places in those travel brochures. But he's not here, so I'm doing it without him, with my real family, the family that chose me and stuck by me when everything fell apart. Beatrice has the itinerary printed out, all color-coded with highlighters, pink for flights, yellow for hotels, green for tours, blue for meals. She's organized like that. Always has been. Even in high school, she had her notebooks labeled and color-coded. Carmen's been practicing her Twi phrases from a language app on her phone. Akwaba, welcome. Medasi, thank you. Etsen, how much is this? She makes us laugh with her pronunciation, but she's trying. That's what matters. And me, I've been sewing. Made myself 3 new dresses for the trip. Bright colors, bold patterns, Ankara prints in blues and oranges and deep purples, fabrics I bought from a woman at the African market downtown, nothing I would have worn when I was Raymond's wife. He always preferred me in pastels, said bright colors were too much, too loud, made me stand out when I should blend in. Now I wear what I want, loud colors, bold prints. I'm done blending in. Terrence writes me letters from prison, every single week, long letters where he apologizes, where he tells me about his days, about the classes he's taking, the work he's doing in the wood shop. He says he thinks about what he did every day. I read every letter. Haven't written back yet. Keep them in a box in my closet. Sometimes I think about responding, about visiting him. We're coming up on his release date, 2 years of a 3-year sentence. He'll be out soon. Part of me wants to see him, wants to believe he's changed. Another part remembers him holding me while I cried, all while planning to steal from me. I don't know if I can forgive him, don't know if I want to, but he's still my son. That's the terrible truth. He's still my baby. Some part of me will always love him. I just don't know if I can trust him, don't know if we can ever have any kind of real relationship again. Raymond writes too. Not as often. His letters are different, not apologetic, explanatory. He tries to make me understand why he did it. how the pressure became too much, how he felt trapped, how he thought faking his death was the only way out. I don't respond. Don't even read most of them. Just file them away. Maybe someday I'll want to understand. But not today. Today I'm still working on forgiving myself for not seeing it, for trusting so completely that I was blind. The shop keeps me busy. I'm sewing more now than I did when I needed the income. Made a wedding dress last month for a young lady from church. Beautiful ivory satin with lace sleeves and a chapel train. Took me 3 months. When she put it on for her final fitting, she cried. Said it was exactly what she'd dreamed of, that I'd made her vision real. That's what I do now. Make things real. Make things beautiful. Take fabric and thread and create something that didn't exist before. Something honest. Something true. People ask me sometimes if I regret pursuing this, if I wish I'd just let it go. The answer is no, never. Because living with a comfortable lie is still living a lie. And I spent too many years doing that. I'd rather have the painful truth and my dignity than a peaceful lie and my shame. Now I wake up every day and I choose myself, choose my truth, choose to live with integrity even if I have to live alone. That self-respect, that certainty that I did the right thing even when it was hard, that's mine. Nobody can take that from me. So yeah, my husband faked his death, my son stole from me, my family was a lie, but I'm still here, still standing, still sewing, still living, still building a life that's actually mine. Last Sunday after church, I didn't go to the cemetery. First time in 2 years. Carmen noticed. "You okay?" she asked as we walked to our cars. I nodded, looked up at the sky, clear blue, warm sun on my face. "Yeah," I said. "I think I am." We're leaving for Ghana in 3 weeks. Beatrice has the itinerary printed out, all color-coded. Carmen's been practicing her Twi phrases from a language app. And me, I've been sewing. Made myself 3 new dresses for the trip. Bright colors, bold patterns. Nothing I would have worn when I was Raymond's wife. This morning, I took my wedding ring off. Put it in the jewelry box on my dresser. Closed the lid. My finger feels light without it. Strange, but not bad. The shop is quiet today. Just me and my sewing machine and yards of ivory silk for another wedding dress. Someone else's new beginning. I run the fabric through my fingers, smooth and cool, pin the pattern, thread the needle. Outside, cars pass by, people going about their lives. And here I am, in my own space, doing my own work, building something real with my own 2 hands. That's enough. That's everything. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And before you go, click on Hype to help this video reach even more people. Your support keeps these voices alive and keeps our community growing. Thank you for listening.
요즘도 단속 심하냐고요? 아니요, 단속은 잘 안 다녀요. 예, 그냥 이제 BJ들이 조심하는 거지. 이제는 어차피 그리고 겨울이라서 안 나와요, 애들이. 예, 어차피 겨울이라서 애들이 안 나와요. 안 나와. 예, 나오는 사람은 거짓 뭐 저 같은 사람들밖에 안 나와요. 예, 안 나와. 그냥 다 안에서 방송해요. 부천에서 방송하더라도 다 그냥 실내 들어가서 해. 날도 춥고 그러니까. 복돌이 형도 어서와요. 예, 슬슬 밥 시킵시다 이제. 예, 왜냐면은 오늘 또 비 와가지고 또 지연될 수도 있어. 예, 굿모닝이냐고요? 뭐 지금이면 굿모닝 아닌가요? 아직 브런치는 아니잖아. 예, 굿모닝이죠. 한 10시는 돼야 이제 브런치죠, 여러분들. 예, 아직은 굿모닝. 아직 굿모닝. 그랬던 거지 별을 이었지. 오늘 스케줄은 예 오늘도 컨텐츠가 좀 있어요 사실은 싶어서. 예 오늘은 또 컨텐츠가 이제 오늘 아침 밥 먹고 예, 밥은 진짜 필수 코스잖아. 밥 먹고 이제 3,900원짜리 초밥 예 초밥 적시러 가고요. 예, 여러분들 또 오랜만에 또 초밥 예 저렴한 것도 보여드려야 되잖아. 저렴한 초밥 가고 그 다음에 이제 또 도너츠 예 도너츠 이트째 예, 오늘은 과연 미용실 문이 열려 있을지 모르겠지만 예, 도너츠 이트 예, 이번에도 만약에 미용실 문 안 열려 있다 그러면은 예, 이제는 절대 안 줘. 절대 안 사줘. 끝과 끝을 간다고? 뭐 가디에서 뭐 예, 거기 뭐 미용실 가는 거 뭐 우리 집 오는 거나 뭐 똑같지 뭐. 예. 예, 이제 밥 시킬 거예요. 저기 좀 밑에 좀 내려가 가지고 예, 밥 좀 시킵시다. 예, 밖에 비 와 가지고 휴대폰 물 묻어서 잘 안 눌러지더라고. 예, 기다려봐요 여러분들. 그리고 보니까 그것도 있더만. 네, 몰랐거든. 유튜브 봤거든. 유튜브 보니까 그 유근영 쌤 있잖아. 유근영 쌤 여기 부천에 왔더만. 나 그거 오늘 봤어. 오늘 몰랐는데 존나 웃기던데.